Hello and welcome to day 226, 365 days towards racial change. My name is Tom Nyback. We're here discussing black issues, how we get along, how we live here in America, what's going on, how to fix problems, is there a problem, things like that. We've been at it for 226 days. I think you may know where I land on the argument. Uh, this is more personal catharsis, but also I wonder how your journey goes if you've followed up to this point. Please let me know if you have. That's a lot of hours of monologue from an introvert like me. But anyway, we're talking about black issues in America, how we get along, the relationship between blacks and whites, and having some tough conversations around the issues. I'm concerned about the black mind, um, whether there's a level of denial, understanding, ignorance, not in a pejorative sense, but ignorance as far as how America works. What is America? How it came to be. Who's responsible for its success? So some of those questions need to be answered and settled. Definitely in the black mind. We find ourselves, well, in my experience, I find myself kind of cast forth on the nation uh, with limited supplies, no defense. I've got to stay under the radar for a time as I navigate and try to understand this system and everything. Populated, controlled, uh, administered by white folks. So in a very real sense, there's a need for some genuine education to develop some strategies, philosophies to help me to be successful in America. Conversely, the white mind, you know, I see arrogance and ignorance to a degree in another sense. Uh, there's no hate, it's just a wonder sometimes. How is it that this group of people come to control this nation and the planet, simply on a color barrier? That's quite amazing. You know, I, I personally believe in other civilizations out amongst the stars, things like that, and I wonder if they have those same issues. I think as we stretch out, I bet you we'll find it out there to some degree. But it's going to be interesting to run into a people, a group that never had that issue, that don't see a hierarchy based on skin color or whatever their physical feature may be, hair or hairless, you know, one leg or three legs, these things. I wonder about that. But anyway, how do white folks up here get to where they are? Understanding that, understanding that there needs to be, you got to go take a journey, regardless of what color you are. You got to take a journey as far as understanding who you are, where you are, how you got there. Is there privilege or is there disadvantage to the color of your skin in America? Financial literacy is another big concern of mine. How are you handling finances? How are you getting along with um, navigating beyond simply saving money and stuff like that. But I'm understanding maybe even basically some of the higher financial structures in existence in America that are having an impact on your finances today and into the future. You know, you go to the grave saddled with debt, no matter how well you do, to a large degree. Understanding that how to get money to work for you. But why is your dollar doing less work? You know, why is uh, your experience financially more challenged even than the people that uh, preceded you? You know, and that's a big problem for Black folks. You know, I've been sensitized, and I kind of see an arc. You know, it's kind of parabolic. Like, my parents, it looked as though they did much better than their parents, but the children are struggling to some degree, and at least the children's finances don't have that same punch as 40, 50 years ago. Very interesting to understand that dynamic. I'm inspired to do this work by a man named Dr. Claude Anderson. Going to be into his works. We may have to get back to Uncle Tom's Cabin. The year is getting away from us, and I'm not going to be continuing these fresh posts after December 31st. But we'll do our best. You know, it's just a lot of material to cover, 400 years worth. This is just a condensed version, Uncle Tom's Cabin stuff. But let me get to this, though. Dr. Claude Anderson, he wrote 3 great works. We're again in the introduction today. We're talking about exceptionality today in the introduction. Um, Easy to find, and if you don't know your Roman numerals, it's XVIII, which is page 18 in the introduction. So if you have that text, please follow along. Black labor, white wealth, search for power and economic justice, and Dr. Anderson's national plan to empower Black America. Powernomics. You can find Dr. Anderson at powernomics.com. Behind me, you'll see the hashtag #US2 symbol. You'll find Black women supporting one another, conversing, having a conversation there. It's on Facebook, I believe. Check out Black Enough, BLAGGENUF, for that kind of Black Facebook experience. If you can't find your own flavor here on the World Wide Web with billions and millions and trillions of sites and links, then do what I did, start your own little space and see what happens. I've got a core handful of private subscribers that I communicate with, and these videos are public, so enjoy them at your leisure. I'm in a situation I'm in a special community, and I can't make comments easily from where I'm at, but comment in a civilized manner as you will. And finally, Uncle Tom's Cabin, we have story time, and we're more than halfway through, it looks like, the book, and I'm determined at least to finish that text before the year is out. All right, today we're talking about, we're going through the purposes of Dr. Anderson's book, A Black History Reader, 101 Questions You Never Thought to Ask. And it's very enlightening when I went through it, the historical ideas he brings out, how Blacks kind of got to where we are today. You're talking centuries of oppression and abuse and disadvantage So it's definitely more than 101 questions, but it's a darn good start. He's got three purposes there in the beginning. First purpose, he's going to give the constitutionally based argument uh, for the reasons of the fixed relationship between blacks and whites in America. Today, we're going to talk about exceptionality, how black folks overcome and all that. And the third purpose of his book, which we'll talk about tomorrow, is the reparations argument. 40 acres, a mule, and $100 back then. I might even try to see what that looks like in inflationary terms. Because the 40 acres would be good. I'll tell you what, I'd settle for that. Big chunk of land. That's a lot of land. So you carve me that out and leave me alone. That'd be a good start. But we'll talk about that tomorrow. So today is the exceptionality part. And I went to the African American Museum down Washington, D.C. on my vacation. And it was good. I wasn't really overtly surprised by stuff because the plight of African Americans, Black Americans, it's always been a part of my life, obviously. So I've always been kind of tuned in, our contributions, military, art, science, sports, religion, we're everywhere, woven into the fabric of America. And so I went, I just got different aspects on stuff I was already familiar with. I saw a lot of offerings from a man named Paul Robeson, a great actor back then, toured the world. You think about some of the black people in the early days. Granted, it's gotten kind of easier to move about. The country is very sensitive to hatred right now, at least overt demonstrations and displays of hatred. So that's a plus. But back then, when Jim Crow was raging, and black people really had to be extreme overachievers just to break even or approach that break even line. Black people really had to put a lot of energy into that. So we saw Paul Robeson, a lot of great actors, comedians, contributions to art, film, music, and all that. I saw some incredible art from a woman named Clementine Hunter. Google, I'm pretty sure she's got some work. I'm going to do probably a post on her because she's reflecting on her days of slavery from her memory, and this solid colors. It's cartoonish, but there's something very serious about her work. I was pleasantly surprised to see that level of simplicity and be captured by it at the same time. You know, well, you gotta look at it, and maybe you'll feel the same way. Um, Almost like a kind of a Bob Ross experience. You know, simple landscapes, a lot of imagination, but you can watch it being created, and you can look at that image for a long time. That's just a few of the examples. You know, um, Jesse Owens comes to mind, going to Germany, being separate. A lot of our people, have that skills overarching skills, overqualified for whatever they're pursuing. Yet they have to sleep in poor spaces when they're on the road, sit in the back of the bus, be separated, all um, these social machinations to illustrate and exemplify that this black person was not supposed to be part of the whatever the white majority was doing there at the time. But it was very primitive and barbaric. I gotta admit, But so those are just a few examples um, that I chose to share for Dr. Anderson's idea of exceptionality. We are exceptional to function, grow, continue to prosper in a nation that's averse toward black skin is a feat in itself. Uh, that we all have not just started walking into the ocean en masse, uh, says something about the determination of black folks. There's another point of exceptionality, our resiliency, this overt resiliency, is in response uh, to white oppression and resistance is pretty impressive, pretty impressive. And we do that without compensation, without any notoriety, little help, um, with our interest diluted and diverted, on and on. Okay, um, something that there's on the third floor. There's more of the community exhibits of the African American Museum in Washington D.C., where you've got being present in every war, in every religion. In America, there are black Jews. Um, we've got other religions, of course, Nation of Islam, Catholicism. Black folks are there, right? So we are in the tapestry, yet counted as separate. We've survived and even thrived domestic terrorism. I just turned off CNN to make the offerings here, and the news cycle is concerned about domestic terrorism. Black folks are conditioned for that. You know, we've been lynched, burned alive, kidnapped. I won't go into the long factual list of domestic terrorism perpetrated against and at and toward black people, but it's real. Now it is an interesting phenomenon to see domestic terrorism be indiscriminate. They say, well, it's hatred and all that. I say the heart of man is murderous. The potential is always there in every person, and these coverings are minor excuses. You know, uh, those perpetrating these acts would just as soon just kill up everybody. You know, but black folks in America are victims of domestic terror, and we got other groups too. I'll give a shout out to the Native Americans, Japanese with internment camps, World War II. Everybody's probably got a slice of the pie at some point. Uh, but the black folks they have experienced a unique kind of terrorism. It was something. It's a lingering. If we're not killed off, we're jailed, excluded from economic elevation and progress. Um, we are still. I know. I ride public transportation. I'm still scrutinized in a way. I think my heart's finally getting hardened to it. I'm not as sensitive to it. There's plenty of, I guess maybe it's the times that I travel, but I'm not as, I'm not closed in, so I don't see it. When I'm the last person, I got the last open seat on the train and everybody's standing up around me. It's very uncomfortable. I mean, I'm making obvious room there, you know. So our victim are being victims of terror, isolation, disadvantages, economic abuse and disadvantage. It's interesting. I have a lot of good friends at work, white friends. I got white friends, gay friends, everything. And my one uh, girlfriend, she said, yeah, that they had a meeting while I was away that said numbers were down, over like 10 states. Our company was the bottom of the list. And I said, okay, I didn't think about it, but then as she was dropping me off at the train, I was like, wait a minute, didn't we just have this big hiring? We've hired 4 or 5 people, none of them black. Let's talk real here, all right? I applied twice, was skipped over twice, you know. I have plenty I could give to that country, but they're going to compensate me for it. We're going to talk about that tomorrow in our reparations argument. You know, no more symbols, right? I can give my suggestions. They could take it, run with it, and perfect the business, and I'd still be lifting heavy boxes. No, I need promotions. We'll talk about that later. But she said they're the bottom, and I said, well, they just hire 4 or 5 people, kind of for that. How could we be the bottom? You know, didn't management choose the best people? Didn't management isn't there teaching and education, accountability, all this stuff going on in the workplace? So I feel so vindicated. I'm sad that the company looks bad. I mean, we're still looting the volume, but I'm sad the company looks bad. This particular branch I work at, uh, and like when I know I've got answers I can contribute and all that, they passed me over twice. Right? In the interviews, the white managers want specific kinds of answers, answers that aren't even relevant to the position. They want the right answers instead of seeing and how an individual performs the job. They don't want those answers. So it's crazy. Yeah, and you see, black people, the exceptionality is, you know, since we are generally in the labor class, yeah, we've probably got some damn good answers on how to make a process run and work more efficiently. How do you think, like, I mean, I'm talking from slavery times up till now, I bet you there's always a black person bending over backwards to make work easier and all that, to elevate production and make work easier. You know, I don't see that happening with management. But they just want to run. That they're waiting until stuff breaks down. You know. Sorry, I got off track and off topic. But I wanted to insert that I can confidently say I've got answers for my workplace, but they passed me over twice. And then I hear news that within a 9-10 state radius, they are the bottom of the barrel as far as production and numbers and quotas and some of the things like that. Exceptionality, right? And it's sad because we're not recognized. We're not, you know, when a black person shows up, it really should be a sign of, that an elevated experience is upon you, because we're coming out of the trenches. Our history that's made us resilient. You let me just wrap this up at this time. Is getting away from us. I don't want to hold you hostage. On that note, on everything I have just said, we don't want to leave this time and this space without understanding that black folks also have a responsibility. See, I'm having this great process right now, moving through my time with a lot of success. I'm coming from drug addiction, other dysfunctions in my life, and finally found some footing, and I'm scrambling to solidify because I need to step off from here about this time next year. You know, so unfortunately, I've contributed to the negative stereotypes, to reasons for being passed over in the workplace and things like that. Uh, None of it's ever justified. I could say, well, I'm ignorant, uneducated, at a disadvantage, and all this. Racism is coming at me and all that. But while those things may be true, I still have a personal responsibility to step up, step out, step away from negative influences in society, uh, drugs, alcohol, anything that's going to be a detriment to my life. I need to step away. I need not be part of that. Now, everybody's got to go through their process, and it is unfortunate, but through this project, I'm just seeing this truth of so many dimensions, and I'm fortunate that I've lived long enough to recognize that, I've contributed to some of the things that make black people undesirable in America, and at the same time, I've recovered to a point now where I'm being productive, and it's time to be recognized that I'm a contributor, that I'm no longer a drain on America in the way I used to be. And all these things are true. Uh, Black people are exceptional, very exceptional, very special. And finally, we will end with this. Dr. Anderson, he also proposes, look, we need to be recognized and protected in a special class, just as the Native Americans. I think that's a very right thing to do. The Native Americans got reservations. They got their issues with being exclusive, but they got a lot of blessings too. They got gambling. That's helping them out a whole lot. So, a lot to untangle. It's too bad bureaucracy's got it tied up, and we got to wait till what's politically correct and popular and lucrative financially for the powers that be. But having the conversation is obviously a great place to start. I'm Tomlin's Nyback, day 226 of 365 days out of the way. Come join me tomorrow where we're going to talk about reparations and how that figures, what that means, what that could mean. But it's another tough sell here in America. Please come back and join me tomorrow.